stakeholders that are linked to the issue should be involved from the beginning. You should have the engagement, and it is important to think about the sustainability of the scorecard. If you develop a scorecard that is used only once, it will not produce the benefits I just announced, and you need to make sure that in terms of funding, you can sustain the scorecard implementation beyond the time of the funding you are receiving. You should also make sure that the different stakeholders that are involved in the development of scorecard can really sustain their existence and continue to exist in the function of the scorecard, and also make sure that you have a dissemination plan. If you have a scorecard and you produce some results and you can't disseminate those results with all stakeholders, it will not produce the benefits in terms of learning and building new strategies together. So I came across last weekend across this document produced by a team from the World Bank, where they made an assessment of the scorecard initiative in Africa. I can't go over all these tables, but I will at least mention the initiatives we have in Africa. It is the East Africa Community Common Market Scorecard, the ECOWAS Investment Climate Scorecard, the Intra-Africa Agricultural Improvement Scorecard, the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme Monitoring and Evaluation Scorecard, and I think the one all of you know about is the Africa Union Biennial Review Scorecard. All those scorecards, they have been evaluated to see how they have accounted for inclusiveness, as I said, for continuity, the financing issue, and how they have impacted at the national, regional, and continental level, and how dissemination have helped to make it useful by making it user-friendly. I will finish with a summary of the AU-BR scorecard, focusing on the trade component of that scorecard. You know, the AU-BR scorecard covers 7 commitments, and commitment 5 is about tripling intra-Africa trade, and it is a scorecard that reports on 3 indicators: the growth of trade, trade facilitation index, and domestic food price volatility. And for each indicator, you have the parameter or data that are used to produce it. So country report on those data, that is value of trade, import, export, but also volume of import-export among African countries. But in terms of trade facilitation index, you have 5 parameters: trade physical infrastructure, information and communication technology, border administration, bilateral trade-related agreements, and immigration. And for domestic food volatility, we just use the FAO Domestic Food Price Level Index. So thank you for your attention. We will see during the next session how we can learn from the AU-BR scorecard.
could have the questions up in the next 10 minutes in your group. Again, we could have one card on each table using the same process. One card for each table. We want you to answer these two questions while Sunday and I work on our dance routine. Sorry, I better have my microphone on. That would help, wouldn't it? So you have, in the next 10 minutes in your group, referencing that scorecard information in front of you, just give us a moment to get the questions up. It's a very useful presentation, I thought. I learned a lot Sunday. Okay, so 2 questions for you to answer. How can these scorecards help with mutual learning and accountability? Take 5 minutes on that. Second question, how could the scorecards guide policy interventions? Which, of course, we're meeting some policymakers tomorrow. So answer those 2 questions in your group. We'll feed back. We'll have a little Q&A before moving on to SPS. Any questions? Reference again what's on your table. You have 10 minutes. Go. What's that?
The printout is not in color.
They're on the. Are they not?
Sorry, I can see that the printout are not.
Oh, sorry.
That will be difficult.
Sorry, go ahead.
I say I can see that you have the printout in white and black. Colors are needed for you to read those scorecard and maps. I'm sorry.
Could we ask, while people are looking at it, could we get it up maybe on the screen? Paul, it was sent as 4 different slides. If you could work with them, and we could put them up as they're working on it, so they could see at least the one color scorecard.
Exactly, yeah.
So continue, and we will put up a color version right away.
So can we present the first one? I think we are all familiar with this scorecard. So this is the scorecard for all commitment together, the overall scorecard. So this is where you see how individual countries progress towards the achievement of all set goals. There are seven commitments going from aligning to principles up to safety issues, including agricultural gross, public finance, agricultural development, trade, poverty, and nutrition issues. Everything are put together here. So these scores show which countries are progressing better than which ones. So for 2023, the target or the benchmark is 929. So countries should normally have that score or more. But you can see that it is a bit difficult. You can see that Rwanda is a bit closer. But you see that the score for some countries are higher than 5 because it is score out of 10. For the countries that have more than 5, we say that they are in progress, they are progressing. And normally you should have 9.9 to be on track to achieve the final goal. So this, I don't want you to stay long time on this. Go to the next scorecard, which is specifically on trade. How countries are progressing towards the objective of tripling intra-African trade. So this is the next on trade, and you have 2 more scorecards. It is where you can decompose the trade commitment into 2 components. One component about the progress in terms of trade, but the other component in terms, the progress in terms of improving the trade environment. So this is the progress towards the trade pledge, that is tripling intra-African trade by 2025. So here we were at the starting point, the first year, and the reference is 22.44. Sorry, not the reference. This is the continental score, and the reference was very low at the starting point. You know, you needed to go from Malabo, from I think 2015 or 14, to 2025 to triple that trade between African trade. And in 2017, the benchmark, the score benchmark is 1. Mm-hmm. So many countries were able to arrive to that level. You can see that we have many of countries in green. But 2 years later, or no, that is 4 years or 6 years later, that is 2023, many countries are not able to continue that progress toward the final goal of tripling the trade by 2024, and shows that many countries are now red. They are no more on track. It seems that the result to achieve is beyond what current conditions of trade could help achieve. Mm-hmm. And for you to see clearly how conditions contribute, the trade conditions of trade capacities contribute to that. You can look at the next. So this is the score on by how much countries are improving their trade values, knowing that they should achieve the tripling by 2025. And you can see that at the beginning, we only had 2 countries that are on track. But in the last exercise, many of those countries are no more on track. Those countries are no more on track, but there is a country here starting to get on track.
Sunday, I
Yeah.
have an idea.
Yeah.
It seems that this concept is a bit new to many of us. I think rather than maybe reporting back in the group right now, we should have a bit of question and answer
Okay.
about, about how it could be applied. And can we open it up to any questions people have? And maybe then you can reflect and share how it could be applied.
Yeah.
This common benchmark. We'll need some microphones here. There's a question here. Because I think this is so rich. There's so much
Thank you.
information here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Bartholomew Chataiga from Kadesa. I want to understand the scores. It looks like the way the figures are showing is so alarming for Africa. Are the figures based on the difference between the exports and the imports, or the net revenue to come up with a score? One, to come up with a benchmark. 2, how the country is performing. Otherwise, it's so alarming. Thank you.
Okay. So let's take an example. You know a country that is exporting and importing within Africa. So the value of exports, the value of imports are taken together to represent his trade performance in Africa. Okay? That value need to be tripled by 2025. Okay? So you know how many years you have between the starting point. I think it is in 2027 or 2014 from that. Between that point and 2025, you know the number of years the country will go by about that. So you have some milestone where the country should be in 2017, where it should be in 2019, where it should be in 2021, and where it should be in 2023 here. The last exercise will be done. So when a country arrives to where it should be at a specific year, the score is 10. When it is not at that point, the score is lower than 10. You can understand now why the benchmark is not the same. Because for those who are familiar with that way of putting targets towards a bigger one, it is only, the country needs only to increase by 1% or by a percentage point to achieve this score of this benchmark of 1. And as I said, in 2017, where a country started, it was not very far from what they need to achieve in 2017. This is why you have the green in the other map I show. But progressing, they are not increasing trade at the pace that is needed to reach the next milestone. I hope
That's
I covered the
very
question.
clear. Do we have any other questions? And I think we will get you to put your cards up on the wall after, but I think this is good to clarify. Can we have a microphone here, please? We have one. And you could tell us my favorite Canadian.
So I have a question. So it's the intra-African trading.
Yes.
So that's the assumption, the hypothesis is that there is enough commodity and services within Africa for us to trade. Is it correct?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, we do know that most of the commodity inputs, fertilizers, seeds, are imported from, we take the case of rice value chain, for example.
Yeah.
Most of the imported rice are coming from Asia. So what are the mechanisms that you are putting in place to make sure that all those difficulties in terms of legislation by law, for example, a country who has a surplus of rice can trade with another African country, which we do know that most of the import, billion-dollar import, are coming from North Africa.
Thank you. Good question. So this is this is one of the main objectives of that make the head of state and government adopt this commitment of tripling intra-African trade. We all know that Africa trade with African countries trade more with extra-African countries, but how do we make sure that products that we can source within Africa are not imported? Products we can source easily from the neighboring countries are not imported at that level of current importations. So there are still possibilities of improving intra-African trade, because you can also see that some countries, listen to me, well, some countries are importing products that other African countries are exporting, the same products. So this overlapping pool could be redirected and transformed into intra-African trade. In some work, we found that those overlapping flows could reach something like 35% of African trade in the world, with the world. So the constraints are there. The constraints are many. And I think in the first exercise, you have seen that people listed a lot of challenge. But most importantly, what we always face is the fact that policies that should normally enable more trade between neighboring countries are not implemented. And there are many other constraints, like physical infrastructure and SPSS and other things.
Sunday, it feels like we're just getting started on this subject like many others. I think we could take one quick question, if there is one. I want every group member, I know we didn't have you feedback, but those who have filled out cards, I'd like you to take them over there. Paul, do we have a place for the cards? For those who filled it out in their group? Can you please fill out your cards there? Sunday, can we say a big thank you to Sunday?
Thank you.
And you know, you had the advantage of you had the startup of the dancing. I mean, that was an unfair advantage, sir. But it was necessary. I thought this was great. A very difficult, complex subject. Thank you. Sunday and others will have lots of information for you. All right, while we go to this next group, just one last time, stand up. Come on, stand up. Diana, please come up here. Let's get ready. Come here, my friend. Come here, my friend. Come. Yeah, come on. Show us some things to do while I get Diana. Show us some things to do. Come on.
family. I was given a very big topic to present in 10 minutes, so I'll try to do that. So I'm supposed to present on SPS measures, the challenges and opportunities, so that is my presentation outline. I'll not go into it in details here. So let's get into it. What is an SPS measure? And I will also just browse through it and you'll be able to have the presentation and read for yourself. SPS measure is a measure taken to protect human, animal, or plant health and life from all those risks. It's also supposed to protect a country from the damage caused by entry of a disease or pest. But as fall armyworm taught us, fall armyworm and desert locust, sometimes it's impossible to protect yourself. So what does it entail? So SPS measures include all the relevant laws, decrees, regulations relating to SPS, some requirements and procedures, also involving how products are processed, they are produced, the methods involved, testing, inspection, certification, approval, amongst others, also quarantine treatments, sampling methods or risk assessment methods, and last but not least, packaging, labeling requirements. So these are measures that economic operators or exporters must meet in the process of exporting their commodities. Now, AU member states or countries in general set their own SPS standards on food safety and animal health and plant health. While they are at liberty, they have the freedom to do that. Sometimes they use it as a tool to just protect their domestic lines or domestic producers. The US has been in the news, they have been open about it, they've not gone behind SPS measures, but they've just gone out straight up and put tariff measures, tariffs for some commodities. So I don't know how many of you know about this AFCFTA agreement. Because of the time constraints, I couldn't go back into the entire background, but we know that this agreement is supposed to help us integrate economically as Africa. So the AFCFTA agreement and various annexes are aligned with the WTO agreement as well as the SPS agreement. So Annex 7 on SPS encourages countries to establish national measures or that are consistent with international standards, guidelines, and recommendations. And this is what is often referred to as harmonization, SPS harmonization. I will not go in the last one, but you can read that for yourself. So I'll briefly touch on the continental SPS frameworks that we have in Africa. First one is Annex 7 on SPS that I spoke about. It applies to SPS measures that directly or indirectly impede trade. It has 3 specific objectives. The first one is to facilitate trade, safe trade. And the second one is also to enhance cooperation and transparency in the development and implementation of SPS measures. This objective is just to ensure that measures don't become just a barrier, a trade barrier, as I mentioned earlier on. And then the last one is to enhance technical capacities among state parties so that they are able to implement and monitor the measures in place, of course, while encouraging use of international standards. And again, to also recognize that in Africa, we have different capacities. You'll find that Kenya might be more well advanced in terms of their capacities, both human resource and physical. So how does such a country then hold the hand of another smaller country or a struggling country so that we don't leave any member state behind? Now, those are the articles under the annex. I will not go into it. And then we have the AU SPS policy framework that was developed, endorsed in 2019. It has 4 objectives, but I just wanted to pick on the kind of policy challenges that are contained in that policy framework. One, that there is limited enforcement of SPS measures, and then there is inadequate infrastructure. Also, mandates are duplicated across regulatory agencies. If you go in countries, you find responsibilities overlapping among different ministries. There is agriculture, trade, and the like. There is also low awareness on SPS. And then if decision makers are not aware, they cannot make informed decisions. So that is one of the policy problems. And limited sharing of scientific data. Again, data is important in supporting decisions. So those are the problems. They are known, they are well documented. Again, going back to now drilling down to the types of SPS measures that can apply to imports. The first one here is prohibitions or restriction of imports for SPS reasons. I give an example here of when of the maintenance of quarantine restriction on apples that were imported from into Japan from USA. This was a case that was brought before the WTO dispute settlement body. It was found that this was contrary to Article 2.2 of the SPS agreement. So this is one clear example of what might be an SPS measures. Then you have tolerance limits for residues and restricted use of substances. So here, at least we have 2 codex committees that have they established standards that state parties can or countries must adhere to. And then here I may also say that maximum residual limits, MRLs, are based on good agricultural practice data. Africa, we trade a lot with EU, and EU has very strict MRLs in place. Then you also have measures like labeling, marking, and packaging requirements directly related to food safety. So here, an exporter is required to specify what is in the product, not really advertise, but ensure that they provide the information that consumers can use to make their decisions in the process of buying. Sometimes a country will reject a commodity just because of the labeling requirement, not that the food is not safe, but just because the exporter has not complied with the labeling requirements. Then you have hygienic requirements, relating to assessment, the use of analysis and critical control points. This is a very big concept. And I know that EU would actually send a whole delegation into Africa. For example, if they are importing fish from a particular country, they send their team to see that they are following the HACCP principles established. On the above one, we know also that Africa really bears the biggest burden of food safety. So those are some of the issues, the contaminants, that lead to foodborne diseases. Then there is also the requirement for treatment for elimination of plant or animal pests and diseases, causing diseases, and also other requirements. So in view of those measures, we also see that they are a little challenging, not a little challenging, they are challenging for African agricultural products. So here we find that sometimes at our, the exporters don't have the capacity to comply. They also maybe don't follow the necessary procedures put in place. We have incomplete documentations, errors in declaring what is being exported, or sometimes they find that they have used prohibited commodities as part of the consignment. Then they also struggle with lengthy clearing processes at borders, which affect the quality of vegetatively propagated products. Also, we know that Africa, we struggle with inadequate infrastructure, including storage, packaging materials, and inspection. I think the last question that came for the previous presenter was that why are we not, having a lot of intra-Africa trade? At the AFCFTA Secretariat, we conducted a diagnostic. We have a private sector engagement strategy, which identifies 4 strategic areas of concern or that should be looked into. The whole issue around logistics and transport is a key issue. It's easier to get goods cheaply and very fast from China or where does this rice come from? Basmati, from wherever than moving rice from one West African country to another. So those are real problems for our exporters. Then manual clearance. We still use manual processes. There are various windows instead of single windows. Someone talked about ePhyto. The IPP Secretariat developed the ePhyto solutions. Only 13 African countries have onboarded on the ePhyto solution. So, and then lastly, there is a lot of bureaucracies. And so here I just look at, go deep into compliance with SPS standards. So we know that compliance with standards will be a very big problem for countries, is always rather a big problem for countries when they're trading. So we need to provide the necessary support to government when they are developing their standards. Of course, that which is aligned to international processes. And at the AFCFTA Secretariat, we recognize that it will be a very big problem for intra-Africa trade as countries begin to phase down tariffs. So we are also working with the African Organization for, what is ASO in full again? Okay, ASO is African Organization for Standardization. So we have an MOU with them. We have a framework that we are using to support countries to, really facilitate harmonization of standards within the continent. And to the extent possible, we are encouraging countries to use or to adopt ASO standards, because ASO standards are also based on international standards. So it's not all doom and gloom. There are processes towards addressing systemic SPS issues. I give the example of Ghana. Someone gave an example of Ghana as well in the morning. There is no bias there. We didn't speak to each other. Ghana struggled in the 2000s to meet the EU market requirements, especially issues to do with aflatoxin. So they came up with a national aflatoxin policy, which has been endorsed. It was launched a year or 2 ago. And they also had their technical regulations relating to aflatoxin enacted in Parliament. They're implementing capacity building projects so that they help SMEs to comply with standards in place. They've also established progressive licensing scheme. This is a very innovative scheme. So FDA, Food and Drug Authority, and Ghana Enterprise Agency are building the capacity of SMEs. Here, when they get informal players or SMEs, they assess the level where they're at. So they give them colors. Red is when they are still in their beginning stage. Then they give them amber until they reach green, and then they become formally registered as enterprises that can export to external markets. They also have a food safety master plan in place. They are now in the process of rolling out its implementation. Then again, together with CABI is represented here. They might even want to talk more about this. At least I know that they supported Ghana to help to enhance their phytosanitary system. And here, I will just go to the two last points. It led to better management of various pests. It also led to reduced interceptions of vegetables from Ghana to EU market from 330 in 2020 to only 11 in 2014, and then to only 11 in 2020. So I think this was a very remarkable intervention. Of course, it was implemented in a PPP format. So CABI, your work is recognized in supporting Ghana. And then at regional level, you have RECs that have established centers of excellence. In COMESA, you have for animal health in Zambia, food safety in Mauritius, KEFIS in Kenya for plant health. Zambia has also put in place a proficiency testing scheme to help countries or to help traders. And then SADC also has several centers of excellence, as listed below. For fruit flies is in Mozambique. As you are aware, Southern Africa struggles with the export of their citrus because of fruit flies. And then you also have for maize lethal necrosis disease in South Africa, and all those. So these are also some of the ongoing interventions under the AFCFTA. It's a pity I could not present to you all the AFCFTA operational tools, but this is one of the operational tools, the NTB online mechanism. It's a platform. Masero is an expert. You may want, if you want more information, please find her and get more information on that from her. So it's a platform where the private sector. Yes, please. She's on table 10.
So we can see you. Ah, that's the person. All right.
So here, economic operators, exporters, you can go and register online to report any NTB they have encountered in the process of exporting. Then this notification comes to us as the Secretariat. Then we either assign it to the RECs or deal. First of all, we determine whether it's actually an NTB before we transfer it either to the RECs or start the resolution process. As you can see, we are giving the countries that have the number of reported NTBs, and those that have been resolved. In terms of status, you can see those that have been resolved, those in process, and the like. Then number of reported NTBs is that guides on the implementation of the work program. The work program are linked to the obligations. So from this, we are conducting studies and having some training initiatives. I'll not go into that, but maybe to just say that during the last subcommittee, we started, looking into specific trade concerns relating to SPS. And I think our ministers instructed that we have this in every meeting where we look at all these issues and try to help countries address them. That was the committee. We are working on harmonization of standards, also on import or export inspection fees, rather. We are in the process of developing mutual recognition agreements. And then we are also establishing an AFCFTA, SPS, and TBT notification system such that people are informed of the measures that are in place. I think I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I feel so bad, but that was some excellent information. There's more there. We want you in the next 10 minutes in your group to grapple with some of these issues. Then Deanna will be here to answer some questions, to reflect on what you come up with. So I think we will ask them to grapple with this issue, won't we? So, in your groups, here is the issue we want you to try to grapple with. It's called the fact that exports are rejected due to pests or residue. So, we want you, in the next 10 minutes, to discuss immediate steps to address the issue and long-term strategies. And I know this will be hard. So, your exports were rejected due to pests or residue. What are you going to do immediately? One. And what's your long-term strategy for SPS compliance? Now, you're going to struggle, but Madame here is going to hear your struggles and share. You have 10 minutes in your group. Take one of those cards. Can we have a card on each table, please? And go. 10 minutes, folks. 2 minutes left, please. Just 1 more minute. You already said this.
I hope you follow this time. It's very interesting, so you can hear from most of the tables.
You just went. Yeah. Trying to. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hate to interrupt a good discussion, but I think it's time, if I can call up my wonderful colleague, Deanna. And we are going to have groups 3, 4, and 7 feed back to us.
are the consultant now. You forgot to mention that she's an export from Africa Union. We lent her to the Continental Secretary.
Yeah, everyone wants to claim you.
Yeah, because she's a good material.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Sorry, I mean, we're not giving you much time for this, but we appreciate the good discussion. We appreciate some of you will be struggling to apply it. So, Madame, what we're going to do is we're going to hear back from a few groups. We're also going to have some Q&A, and we'll be a bit interactive here. So, group number 3, where are you? I am blind, aren't I? Who is reporting back from this group? Zambia. The leader from Zambia is reporting back. Madam, stand up. Tell us who you are again. Thank you, even though you have.
Yes. So, my name is Mwaka Namkonda from Zambia.
We can have everyone's attention here, please.
Yes. So, in the discussion for the first point, we had quite a lot of debates because for goods to be rejected as exports, there are a lot of things that are involved. Of course, for you to be an exporter, you need to be certified and so on. So definitely, if your goods are rejected, according to SPS standards, we expect that they should be disposed. So those are some of the things that we discussed. So we thought also they need to take necessary measures to avoid the same problem in the long run. So we are talking about improving the whole value chain. So if I am an agripreneur, for example, and I'm trying to export cornflakes, the farmer who prepares the grain should be able to prepare it in a certain sort of way that it doesn't have the pests or residues for me to package it or add value to it and export it. So in the long run, we expect that we have the whole value chain educated about the SPS measures so that we are equipped to avoid certain problems like exports being held up because of pests and residues. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Should we take a couple groups and then discuss? Let's have group number 4 feedback. Group number 4 is over here. Thank you very much. Then we'll have group number 7, and then we'll have a reflection from Madame here.
Thank you very much. I think my name is Tokwe Ande again. I want to say that she has said something very important about value chain. Most times, when you look at people that actually engage in the business of export, they are in the third value chain in agribusiness value chain. We have the primary producer, which are the farmers. We have those that add values, maybe the producer, depending on the end product. Then you have the exporter. Let me give you an instance. I'm exporting beans from Nigeria to Europe, England. And I've gone to the market. I've checked the beans, fresh from the farm. I mean, there are no weevils. It is fresh produce, freshly harvested, clean. And at the end of the day, it's well packed and dispatched to Europe. And on getting to England, the government says, no, it can't come in. Why? Number one, there's a policy that European government expect my own government to have put in place. But because that policy is not in place, these beans will not go in. That's one. Then I think as part of recommendation for the ministers for tomorrow, they need to be intentional in funding global gap certification of farmers. It is very important because we'll go back to education. Most of the farmers just go, they just put their seed, they just plant, and most times because of lack of infrastructure, they've not checked the soil type, the nutrients in the soil, the acidity and things like that. And also, they also had chemicals or fertilizers that is also not good for the outcome of that product. I am not there. I wasn't the one that planted it. My interest is taking it out as export. Then I also want to mention that for our government, our ministers, in the area of cultivation, they have to fund the farmers. They have to provide support in terms of certification, because we have people, the country where we are talking about, they have spent so much money in testing this product and in providing support. The certification gap global analysis is very expensive for a normal rural farmers. So they should be intentional in funding the foundational problem, which is the primary production. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Should we just take one more group for some, or do you want to respond to those first?
I can take this. Let me start with the issue of disposal. I think disposal of rejected products. I think you bring in a very important point because we know that an exporter, if your commodity is rejected on the international market, you are also supposed to bear the costs of disposing that rejected product. But then we also have instances where we are trading within Africa. When, let's say, a couple of times, this is hypothetical, Kenya has rejected Uganda's maize because of aflatoxin contamination. That maize recirculates in the Ugandan market. So what is a problem in Kenya is not maybe a problem in Uganda, I don't know. But you don't find them disposing. So the issue of disposal is very critical. And then, of course, I agree with you, there is need for capacity building, especially of the private sector. At the FCFTA Secretariat, our song now is that we know that the governments, the public sector doesn't trade. It's the private sector, it's the farmers. So we need to enhance the capacity of the private sector. And also that connects with what the last speaker said about the need for funding the primary production, of course, and that's why we go back to the commitment of dedicating at least 10% of national budget to improve agricultural productivity. There are so many issues in there, including what you have raised. Then, of course, the real understanding, taking producers through certification, because they must comply. They must get the certificate. If you saw there, I gave the example of Ghana, the progressive testing certification scheme. That is one other thing other countries can also, adopt to help their producers. So I think we can go to the next ones.
Very, very useful. Could we have group number 7, please? Group number 7, where are you? And just remind us who you are, kind sir.
Thank you very much. I'm David Balikoa. I'm a senior livestock officer for the East African community. We have noted that rejection of exports due to pests and residues has major effects on trade in agricultural produce. It leads to loss of investments on the part of the exporter when the export consignment is condemned, but it can also lead to total loss of the market if the problem keeps on, persists. So in order to address such a problem, there are a number of measures we need to undertake. First, we need to sensitize the stakeholders in the value chain, starting with the farmers, where pest infestation may take place, and all other actors along the value chain. We need to sensitize them about the issue of residues that can also contaminate usually at the farm. And we need to build their capacity or train them, the farmers, the exporters, even technical people in government agencies. They need to be aware on how to address this problem. And we need the stakeholders to know the SPS requirements and the standards that they need to comply with. We need to implement integrated pest management initiatives to address the problem of pests. And some people even propose promoting organic agriculture in order to reduce dependence on chemicals. We have also proposed enforcing the minimum residue limits, especially post-farm. If somebody is preparing a consignment for export, we need to test the consignment and check if it complies with the market requirements for the destination market. We need to strengthen the inspection and testing services and conduct pre-export testing so that before somebody wastes time to load a consignment, they are aware whether it's pest-free or it complies with the minimum residue limits. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam, would you like to respond?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Balikoa, for those really valid recommendations. On the rejection, yes, I had forgotten. You know, it takes time to build trust, to access markets. And once you lose that trust or credibility, it's very difficult to regain it. So it's always important that, you know, we equip our producers to always export products that meet market requirements. Yes, sensitization is key. We need to really sensitize the different stakeholders along the value chains and also on pesticide residue, knowledge of SPS requirements, and standards, SPS standards. I will just say that all those are very valid points and say that in terms of standards, I think some of the Bureau of Standards have come up with very good approaches. For example, the Bureau of Standards of Uganda have the standards translated in different local languages so that if a producer in any region can be able to read and understand. But of course, there is also instances where these standards are sold. The issue of affordability comes in, but when someone wants the market, they will find a way of, you know, ensuring that they have access to the standards. And then enforcing MRLs. Yes, that's why it would have been good to have someone speak about the Plant Health Food Safety Strategy for Africa, the AUSPS policy framework. The food safety strategy for Africa, one of the key things that we took into account was the fact that normally when we are producing in Africa, we are focusing on the external market. But what about us? Our health is also important. So whatever we do, we must ensure that we are putting products that are safe for the entire population as much as those that we are exporting. I don't know whether I can say this here. Where are my colleagues from Ethiopia? There are two types of abattoirs, one for the export market and one for the domestic market. You can take a guess. So we need to focus on the domestic market as well. Strengthen inspection and testing services. That is so very true. And it's just a matter of funding. We also need a critical mass in this field to really, you know, address this issue of SPS compliance. Thank you.
Yeah, lots of issues around this, lots of critical issues. Why don't we have a couple questions for the last few minutes? I think, yeah,
Yeah,
should we just,
something different?
why not? Let's get a microphone. We're going to just take a few last questions while we wrap this session up.
Yeah,
And
thank
we
you.
have 1 and 2. Please stand up and tell us your name.
Yeah, my name is Alex Bambona. I'm the Assistant Commissioner in charge of Food and Social Security from the Republic of Uganda, Minister of Agriculture and Industrial Fisheries. Yeah, our table had a few additional things. We also note the issue of these pests and the residues, which are very key for our exports, and especially exporting to the European Union. But we realize in the short term also, if the problem is too much, you can have a self-imposed ban. Other countries, self-imposed ban. It has happened in some countries in the short term. And also, we need to strengthen the surveillance system and identification of these emerging pests. Because sometimes you have new emerging pests, you need to...
So to catch them while they're emerging.
Yes, they are emerging pests due to climate change. And that one is a problem. You need to strengthen the surveillance systems. And also, the other issues are similar to what other tables have talked about. But in the longer term, the issue of the institutional capacity strengthening, because, for example, food safety issues, countries are required to have one-stop center in the form of some authorities which have to be put in place. And some countries don't have them, and we need to have them in place. And the issue our production is small scale, is smallholder based. So we need to organize the farmers. Otherwise, it's hard to manage the systems without organizing the farmers and SMEs.
So it's not just them on their own.
Not just have individual farmers, but have farmer groups, producer groups, and the SMEs must be formed into viable groups for accountability. And
all right, let's
thank you so much.
that's some good points, sir. Let's let Madam respond, and we'll maybe have one more question here. I think we can maybe get 2 more.
I think he was very clear. I don't even want to dilute his
Yeah,
points.
yeah.
But I think the issue of self-imposed ban is very crucial. You find inspectors going into markets and actually inspecting products. I used to see it a lot, but sometimes I feel like it's not a lot. You know, this self-imposed ban is a very critical issue. I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you.
One question here, one question there, and we'll see if we have any more time beyond that.
Thank you. Mine is not really a question. Since we are going to meet ministers tomorrow, we have to show them that we are very, very current. A major issue they are debating now, there is the EU ban on commodities from Africa on degraded land, especially coffee and tea. So you have to allude to it tomorrow. Otherwise, the ministers will not take you serious. Especially since the World Bank is a knowledge hub. They negotiated with Europe, they moved it to December, but everybody is still quiet. So we should be able to guide them on what to do about that particular issue. Thank you.
I will not touch that one.
So just to be clear about that, the EU has banned imports for things like coffee from what they determine to be degraded lands. Why? What would the message be to the ministers?
Both sides are debating, they are searching for solutions. It's not as if the policy is bad in itself. It was to take immediate effect. There was no lead time for them to negotiate. And we know very many of our small farmers cannot meet the requirement of proving that they did not grow their crops or consult something. So if we are going to make a presentation on this, I'm just saying that we should be able to guide them. That maybe part of what the minister need to do is how to build the capacity for small-scale farmers. Just to talk about it, that they don't think that we don't know what is happening. Thank you.
So the suggestion that we support and build capacity, Unfortunately, that was a very quick decision. This is a good point. Tomorrow morning, we'll be talking about messages for ministers, and we'll present a few to discuss with. Shall I take another point here, or do you want to comment? Sir, could we get a question and tell us who you are? And I think that might just do it.
Thank you. I'm Taban Jimmy from the private sector, a businessman dealing in agro-business. My concern is I import a lot and I export a lot. And we have bottlenecks with the country's Bureau of Standards. Sometimes our products are certified from our countries to go outside, but once it hits the international market, it is brought back that it hasn't gotten to that standard. Yet from our countries, we are certified to take it abroad.
So the point is, even though you're certified locally, once you get to that Norway, they say no.
They send it back, they say, no, this product is not qualified there. And when we import from them, it hits our country's market. Then when the quality is taken, it is relatively almost the same. So what could be the issue in that? That is my question.
Yeah, madam.
I actually don't know what the issue could be there, but I can say that we take note of that, and we notice it's a big problem for importers and exporters. That's why, under the AFCFTA framework, we are developing, trying to facilitate the development of mutual recognition agreements, such that if I test my product in Uganda and I'm exporting to Ghana, it doesn't require a new additional test altogether. So there is that that framework that we are trying to develop so that it's easy for people to move commodities around. We know that in some recs have already started doing that, but we want to upscale it to the continental level. One test, one result accepted everywhere. That is what we are pushing for. Earlier on, that gentleman is gone. He was talking about limited intra-Africa trade. Also, under the AFCFTA Guided Trade Initiative, we ran this initiative from 2022, October 2022, to test the feasibility of the AFCFTA framework, whether it can work as a tool for, intra-Africa trade. And one of the things we tried to do was to match make, exporters, to try to point exporters, importers to the different markets, what is available where. And to a large extent, it's taken off, where people are now beginning to see that I can source this particular commodity from this area or from this country. It's work in progress, but it's going on now, where we are trying to match make people. Yeah.
Excellent. Can we have a big hand for Diana, please? Now, we will be having tomorrow morning we're going to be touching on some of the messages for the minister. But after that, we are having another little session on action plans. We'll be trying to bring some of these people back together. Look, I know we're coming to the end of the day, but we have an opportunity right now to just get a bit more information on a couple key things going on. Our colleague at the World Bank has climate financing as it relates to agriculture information. I think it's really important we give him a bit of a voice. What I'm suggesting is we have a very short chat now. We also have a little exercise on the very important issues of nutrition and gender we're going to go through. After that's done, those of you who want to stay behind, I hope that we could be there and ready for further discussions, maybe even throw up your PowerPoint after for those who are interested. I know this is unscripted, but it seemed like an opportunity that this information's there that you should know about it. So I hope you'll bear with me. I'll give you a microphone. All right, self-introduction.
Okay, hi, thank you. Sorry for crashing the agenda at this climactic moment in the day. My name is Alex Lodge. I'm with the Global Department for Food and Agriculture with the World Bank in Washington, D.C. The technician already loaded my 52-slide presentation that I'll give now.
Darn it.
Which I guess I can advance myself. I wanted to bring to your attention a global report that we published last year that we're rolling out now. It's called Recipe for a Livable Planet. It focuses on food and climate. And it's a very comprehensive strategic framework how we can engage on food and climate. And I think it's very relevant to the agenda that you're discussing here in this venue. And I heard many keywords, many concepts, many ideas that are in fact reflected in this report. But before I go into my long slide presentation, I wanted to give you a very important tool that you can apply here. It's based on research from the National Institute of Health, recently published, that shows that if you swear and scream profanities, you increase your pain threshold by 30%. Are you with me? Do I have your full and undivided attention? You can apply that technique now, or next time you have a Canadian moderator. So really just 3 short points. As you all know, the global food system, the agri-food system has a climate problem. It contributes massively to global greenhouse gas emissions. 1/3 of global greenhouse gas emissions come from the agri-food system, which is shown here. Globally, only half of that comes from farm activities. 1/3 comes from activities such as transport and food processing, and 1/5 comes from land use change. In sub-Saharan Africa, this green wedge is half of the emissions of the continent. Half of the emissions come from land use emissions associated with agricultural activity. So a massive footprint, but also a massive victim of climate change, which is of course the focus of the FSRP. So that was the first of my 3 points. The second point that I'd like to make or leave with you as a quick, where's the sensor?
Turn the next slide, please. Thank you.
Whoop. You gave away the punchline. Yeah, this one. Second point is the food system is also a source of a lot of solutions. Climate smart agriculture is something you're very familiar with. This is our summary of this 300-page report that shows that today's food emissions, the yellow bar, can effectively be reduced by a comprehensive set of actions taken by high, middle, and low-income countries. Actions in land use management, land restoration, which is something we just heard, on-farm actions, climate-smart agriculture, but also on the consumption side. And the very important thing, and I think it's very important for the agenda that you're all dealing with, is there is no inherent trade-off between mitigating emissions from the agri-food system and ensuring that a growing global population can be fed adequately with nutritious food. So that's something we show. Another thing we show also in the report, and I think it's very also important and pertinent for what you're discussing, is by tapping into climate finance, and the agri-food system currently receives only 2% of global climate finance, you can mobilize more financial resources to promote the agenda that you're promoting through the FSRP. And you can both reduce emissions, but also boost resilience at the same time. So that was my second point that comes out of this report. And the last point is we now want to take this work down to the country level, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here, helping countries figuring out how successful solutions can be scaled up, how policy can be informed for more transformative change in the agri-food system. But we also have ideas, and that ideas we want to discuss with countries how to increase the leverage of the financial resources, including through climate finance and markets, and also build partnerships. And partnerships is a word that I've heard a lot. In fact, FSRP is one big partnership. We heard partnership on digital earlier, and public and private sector partnerships, so that we have ideas around that as well. So this is all to say that I'm here, happy to answer any questions you may have. Find me during the coffee break tomorrow, or at the reception. I have a few copies here. And this was the hopefully not too long and painful presentation of our report.
Now,
Thank you.
I know we're going a little bit over, but I'd like to take a few minutes on this and a few minutes on the other issue. There's going to, if we can get the QR code up again, let's just take some 5 minutes of questions just so we can make those links, and then we'll do the same with the next group, because this is a resource. This is information. This is very pertinent. So do you have questions or any thoughts or comments that you'd like to address right now? Otherwise, this resource is available. The QR code, if we could put it back up. And I just wanted to ask you the quick question. What sort of engagement would you have with the country?
So we have ideas to take the kind of analysis that we perform for this global report down to the country level. We want to engage with countries on finding opportunities to scale up climate action on resilience, but also in many cases opportunities to reduce emissions. For instance, soil management is an opportunity that increases resilience, stores carbon, increases productivity, just one of many solutions. We want to have these kind of discussions with you at the country level, also around policy that I mentioned, and very importantly, how we can help finance these solutions that do exist, and how we can help these solutions to flow from one country to another, or in fact across the region. And again, I heard many of the solutions here referenced in this workshop, so I think by engaging with you, that would, from our perspective, would be a constructive and fruitful exercise.
Final question here. We'll take a question here, but I think we'd like that reflection a little bit more on the direct link to agriculture. I think it's quite clear. Madam, did you want to say your question? Yes, let's have a microphone. There's one there. That's fine. That's fine. Thanks.
So I just wanted to ask, these statistics that you have, are they, how do you collect them? Because this is a continental level statistic results, right? So how have you managed to collect them from, and what criteria do you choose these greenhouses and so on? So that's just what I wanted to find out.
I can give you a very long answer, but I can also give you a very short answer. It's a combination of many different data sources. Many of this information is collected with digital technology, as we heard earlier. Some of it comes from reports that countries put together on components of the food system. Other information comes from satellites, for instance, land use change. Others come from industry inventories, for instance, electricity consumption associated with cooking or transport. So it's a very diverse set of sources that we all sort of combine together to come up with that pie chart that I showed you earlier. And that was the short answer.
It's a very powerful pie chart, I think. One more question, otherwise we do want you to link up. There's a lot of information and connections. The connection to financing is very important. Sir, microphone, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. There is this issue of the enteric fermentation. I think that one is to do with the cattle. Huh? So now we have this nexus where we are faced with a problem of low protein supply, animal protein supply in our countries.
Low animal protein supply.
And now there is now this problem of enteric fermentation, whereby it seems beef is a problem. So how do we merge the two?
So in other words, you don't have enough protein, but you know the impact on the climate.
Now, how do we merge the two nexus? The nexus of low animal protein supply, then enteric fermentation due to...
I'm so glad you're asking my colleague tough questions.
Yes, we in Africa, in our policy development agenda.
Especially because he made the Canadian crack, so more tough questions, yes.
Also, I give you a short answer. It's, like I said, it's a global report. We take a look at the global food system. We provide country or region-specific examples, including on nutrition. We do look at nutrition and nutritional outcomes very carefully. We contextualize that. What the point that you just referred to is obviously very context and country specific. In some places, there's not enough animal source protein available for a healthy diet. In other places on the planet, there is too much animal source protein consumed, which has massive public health impact. So we try to nuance all these different stories, and which is also precisely one of the reasons why we'd like to engage with you through our country-based regional operational teams, to have a country-specific dialogue, analytics and diagnostics to find country-specific solutions that address the problems specific to the country, whether that's related to animal source protein, nutrition, land management, what have you. And the solutions, obviously differ from place to place.
Let's have a big round of applause. Our colleague has offered to be available right after this, and please come and take advantage of this resource. Thanks a lot. That was the Canadian contact. Now, for the last time, stand up. I want my other two colleagues to come up here, if they don't mind. Stand up, please. Stand up. Yes, stand up. Come on. This is the last time. Look at this. I've got a couple colleagues coming up here. Now, how interesting. Nutrition was mentioned. How interesting. The importance of gender. And these are very important issues that we are about to talk about. And how are we going to talk about it? By quizzing you. Yes. Now, I'm not even going to let you introduce yet. We're going to do the quiz, and then we're going to be open to some commenting and microphone. Microphone 2. We need another microphone here, please. Josh, yes. Can you come and explain just the exercise again, sir? It's hot up here in the lights, isn't it?
Now, I think we know the drill. Do you want them to sit now?
Let's do it, and then we'll discuss and see what the comments are.
Can they sit?
Yeah, so please have a seat. Please have a seat. We know the drill. Please get on to Mentimeter, use the QR code or log in. Let's have everyone log in. Could we agree that those who don't pass this quiz or those who don't log in will not be allowed to go to AUC tomorrow? So let's see 100% log in.
We just preface this by, instead of a presentation, we wanted to keep the interest alive on the topics with a quiz. So in lieu of presentation.
And we also thought, what better than to sit between you and the snacks outside to talk about nutrition. Hungry audience and captive.
And can you please each introduce yourselves now?
Sure. I'm Dipti Thapa with the World Bank, working on nutrition for FSRP.
And I'm Patricia van der Veld. I'm the gender lead for food and agriculture in the Global Department of the World Bank.
Look at this. We saved the best for the last. Sorry, gentlemen and ladies. Now, these are the questions. Our colleagues are going to be commenting on them as they come in. As you can see, the quiz begins.
So why food security does not mean much without gains in nutrition security, and I thought that was very nicely put. So first of all, to get us on the same page, I see people are still voting. Okay. Okay, so the answer, do I go to it now?
Why not?
Yeah, the answer is actually 20,000, over 20,000 edible plants in the world. So,
wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you all
That's true. Good point,
agriculturalists?
good
I'm
point.
amazed at that. I had no idea.
Technicality.
My goodness.
So
It was skewed by all the digital technology people here. They just don't know.
Next question. So of those 20,000 edible plant varieties, about 9 species accounts for 80% of our dietary intake. And of those, how many make up more than 3/4 of our food supply? Look at you all. A little bit all over the place. Yeah? Yeah?
Wow.
So the answer is 4. Just 4.
Wow.
Just 4 species. It's Who can answer which four? I mean, you all get it. Rice,
Maize.
maize, wheat, and soy.
What about teff?
Yep. Well, not teff. Yeah. So we are all consuming the same foods and often in ultra-processed form globally. Next question. So why should we care?
And you can also see the answer there.
Oh, okay, in case I don't know.
Just
Yes, yes. Yes, indeed, this is true. Apart from nutritional gains, we also have very strong co-benefits in terms of climate resilience, in terms of environmental sustainability, soil health, from these locally adapted climate resilient crops that are often ignored. So all of the above is the actual answer. And really this exercise is just to get you all reflecting, thinking a bit about this agenda. Next question. Oops, did I miss the next one? So this is to really get to know what's happening in your countries a bit. What are sort of the traditional indigenous novel foods, often called the forgotten foods, or now actually they're also called opportunity crops in your countries. And yesterday, Mary from Kenya mentioned how she marveled at the fact that a grain was used in a completely different way in the country that she represented than another country. So, you know, there's a lot of traditional local knowledge on not just the production, but also the preservation, the processing, and the consumption of these foods. And I think there's a lot to share between the countries here, wealth of knowledge and know-how. And this is just to see. Anyone want to shout out any answers from the 36%?
Shout-outs. Anyone? They're so shy.
That's okay.
They're so
They need a little bit of nutrition, I think. Next question. And again, this is to just reflect and think about what are the biggest challenges when it comes to nutrition security in your countries, in your regions. This is just to spark, again, some hunger-fueled reflection on your part, just to get an idea. And I see that low dietary diversity is quite important and quite a challenge. And next question. The last question. So how can we help? How can we engage with you on this agenda? Let me provide some context for this exercise in general. It's really to spark reflection and conversation as we're designing an initiative on nutrition within FSRP countries. And we'd like to do this together, the designing part, really, because it's based on your priorities in your countries. For example, how can we build, say, a common framework on nutrition? How can we inform decision-making with evidence? How can we scale up interventions like the ones in Comoros on increasing dietary diversity through this engagement? And really, how can we exchange knowledge and learn from each other as we're doing this within our countries and regions? And yeah, I'll share contact details. Please reach out to me if you're interested in working on this agenda. I think everybody should be, given the importance. And then I'll hand over to Patricia on the gender.
And I'll just mention before Patricia gives hers that after Patricia, we will have some Q&A, and this is a very real connection that you should be sure to make with both of our colleagues.
So I'm sorry to bring the mood down a little bit as sort of a reality check, but sort of following up from Alex, because climate is really critical to agriculture. Do you know what number of people are displaced by climate change or events that are women? You only have one answer. Yeah, it's. I think if we've all answered, I think it's a sort of a grim reality, but the most vulnerable and the people hardest hit globally by climate change, mostly rural women. So it is, we can go to the answer. And then this is a figure that's kind of important. What is the gender gap in agricultural productivity in sub-Saharan Africa? So for same-size plots, what is the difference in productivity between men and women? And this is just a sort of like, and I think you kind of guess where we're going. It's to, and this room is full of practitioners. I don't need to tell you anything that you don't already know about women in agriculture. You guys are here because you know this. I'm trying, and I think what Deepti and I are doing is trying to highlight some of the stark realities that remain in both sectors, and that these are still important to address. I think the answer comes automatically. It's trick question. It wasn't the highest one. It was the middle one, 24%. Which is still, I think, next question. Now this is global, but it's as sometimes, especially as we go up onto International Women's Day and everyone celebrates all of the achievements and all the great work for 1 week a year, how, at the current rate, will we achieve gender equality? How many years will it take? Yeah, guess. Is everybody done? It's 131 years. It's a huge number.
My goodness.
It's we are stalling a little bit on gender equality, and it's not a reminder that it's all bad, but rather that it's not time to sit back yet. There's still work to do. So for positive. Here is the opportunity, because addressing gender inequalities and gender in the food system is a win-win, because empowered women make for better gains in the food system, and food system can help empower women. So it's a virtuous circle, if you will. But how much of a virtuous circle? How much dollars could you gain by closing the gender gap? So it's 500 million, 1 billion, or 1 trillion. Well, it is $1 trillion US. It's an enormous chunk of change that could be gained, and we all know this, by continuing to focus on closing the gender gap in agriculture. So, fun questions, a little bit the same as Deepti, pivoting to figuring a little bit out, working with the brains in this room to figure out what your biggest challenges and priorities are in FSRP national regional programs. What are the biggest challenges identified? There's a gamut, there's a range of them. There's financial products, there's access to gender smart technologies, is it training, is it membership of producer organizations? There's no wrong answer here, which is great. There's only me being able to gauge a little bit from the room what some of the biggest pain points are from your perspective. I see that at least one of you has put that gender equality achieved, and I would love it if that person could could identify themselves in their country. I'm sure it's Alex.
That was me and my household, sorry. Does anybody? Yeah, okay.
And then next slide. Same, and the Deepti and I sort of teamed up, because while gender and nutrition are often linked together, they are great together. They are not necessarily the same thing. But we do have the same aim right now, which is to gauge the room, see what we can do for you, build collaboration, and seek to gather from you what we can do together, because we have some stuff coming up. So we're going to keep track of all these. What do you want and need? These are great. again, here are also no wrong answers. This is scaling, learning exchanges, gender-smart technologies, tools and approaches, policy support, agribusiness accelerators, financial products training. I'd love to, we're going to distill all these. And actually, this brings us to the end of our survey / questionnaire / quiz, where we kind of engaged a little bit on the topic. We have one slide, which is our aim, and Dipti touched on it, and I'll pass back, and then we can.
No, I think we covered it, really. It's about this creating a network for cross-cutting opportunities together with you. And this is our contact information. We would love for you to be in touch, get to us, and yeah.
So we are planning a working group. We do need you to email us. Please send your name, your role, your interest, nutrition, gender, both, nutrition, gender, climate together, to us too. Nutrition is Dipti, gender is me, but feel free to email us together. We want to set up continuous conversation coming from here, and to share the big things coming and work together with you.
Just before they leave, we'd like to do a few questions. Do you think you could quickly mention that these are not silos? These are very much part of an integrated approach. Just maybe comment on that while we get some questions from the field. 1, 2. Oh, well, go to questions, yeah. Oh, no, oh, yeah, I guess you could share one, couldn't you? No, you don't need to. We had a second one. Second one there.
Thank you. My comments are for Diffie. What you didn't mention is that the bulk of funding, innovation and technology goes to those 4 commodities. So what the African Union has done, if you check, very many of the indigenous crops in Africa are not part of this.
Wait a minute, my friend.
Maybe you are sabotaging me.
So, you know, he was part of the troublemaker group that gave me, okay. That did look like sabotage, I have to admit.
Thank you. Invariably, the African Union will actually have a program. We call them orphan crops. It's quite big. Colleagues, thank you.
Have someone
It didn't work.
Here, or like my engagement here to run into people like you working on nutrition. Here, or like my engagement here to run into people like you working on nutrition. Great.
Oh, I forgot to ask.
Chains that are now that have
bringing in ocean.
To that to global read not. It's about partnerships. So
excellent.
Read not. It's about partnerships. So
I take from this this event.
Excellent. Let's give a round of applause. And these people are together. Thank you very much. Finally, go then sit with the ministers. It'll be a fireside chat with the ministers. It'll be a fireside chat. I'll try and loosen them up. Messages. We just want them to hear us and to discuss with us. So it's a very important day. We'll see you. Please go have some tea and coffee now. We'll see you at very good Monday. And Deanna, I need to talk to you too after coffee. Thank you.